Suddenly the hero remembered the words of Master Alvin Sem, asked Yulia to listen, and asked what is stronger in the world, powerful magic or an invincible army. But he said that the correct answer was the girls, because no one can resist them. The hero thought it was drunken delirium, but now he doubted it. The elf allowed him to lean on her. The boy thought that they were truly invincible. He really liked it. The second girl smiled and said she would take him to paradise. It was pleasant because it was impossible to resist them. The girls were talking, one asking the other to tie him as quickly and as tightly as possible. The tall girl said that they were moving. The second one was pulling the cart, and behind him was a tied-up hero. He did not understand if he was really being kidnapped. The hero believed that the foolish prince was to blame for everything. Time goes back 3 years. The kingdom of Zvik is at war with neighboring countries. Thanks to the successes of their powerful first army led by the crown prince, the war is on the verge of victory. Victory was already near. Someone in the palanquin asked about the pursuit. At the table sat the commander of the second army of the kingdom of Zvik, the third prince Ariel Zvik. He was annoyed that the court magician expressed his opinion to the prince, but Julius continued to convince him that the pursuit was definitely a trap. The wizard said that moreover it happens in a night forest where it is raining. The conditions are very bad, and if they are pursued further, they may get hurt, and the prince told him to be quiet. The irritated prince replied that wizards should be scouts, not tacticians. Julius shouted that the prince was mad and trying to ruin a fight that could be won. Our hero was the court magician Julius Castel. The prince shouted that the magician must not doubt him as the future king. The magician insisted anyway, saying it was his opinion and that he was sure it was a trap. The prince shouted that in fact it was their chance. The prince replied that he did not want to listen to him because he considered the mage a war-weary fool who was undermining their fighting spirit. The warriors around him began to call the hero a miserable commoner, and if it were not for the royal court, he would have been beheaded for criticizing the royal family. Julius remembered how he constantly went on reconnaissance, was a messenger, and sabotaged everything, almost always alone. He asked the warriors if reputation was really important to them. They got angry. Julius said that now the lives of the soldiers are more important to them than the fight for the throne, although the crown prince has a better chance, and this angered the third prince. The hero's supporters said that in his place you would not rush like that, but Ariof, enraged, swung his sword and struck the chessboard with it. He pointed the sword at the hero, said he was tired of tolerating him, and ordered him to return home immediately. The hero considered him a complete weirdo because he knew the truth was on his side. The prince shouted for the mage to disappear from his sight and called Yulia a dirty marauder. The hero considered the prince brainless and thought that because of him they would lose. He asked if the prince was crazy, but the prince ordered him to be silent. The hero did not understand whether the prince realized where all this was leading. Julius sighed and told the prince not to forget that the enemy is pursuing them, although he no longer cares, and the prince laughed, told the hero to step aside, and added that when he returns home, he will be judged for desertion. The hero left, and they laughed at him and said that at best he would not find a job at all. Smiling, the hero said he would see how they would justify themselves at the tribunal and wished them luck in battle. They angrily called him from the palanquin, but the hero, sticking out his tongue, walked away. In the kingdom of Zvik, sorcerers had long been despised. Strong men with swords were considered heroes, and sorcerers were regarded as mysterious and secretive people. As the hero's teacher said, fools can use swords, but do not understand magic. The hero, as always, believed that the teacher was right. A warrior passed by and asked Julius if he was going on a reconnaissance mission. Julius replied that he was going home, which surprised everyone. The hero used spatial magic. Judging by the weather, the hero thought the soldiers would not last until dawn. They were freezing, although the elite were not used to relying on chance. The hero remembered the image of the prince, gritted his teeth in anger and drove him away, but the kingdom of Zvik still won the war. But the second army was suddenly attacked by the enemy, who took advantage of the geographical position and suffered a devastating defeat. But this was only the beginning of hell for the hero. The prince loudly shouted that Julius was to blame for everything. He shouted that everything happened because of the mage, who fled before the enemy of his own will, and because of this, they lost the scouts, not noticing the enemy ambush. He pointed his finger at the mage and said that the prince was not to blame for anything, and that it was all his fault. The foolish prince blamed everything on Yulia, who did not understand where all his military pride had gone. He was angry at the judge because of his royal sympathies. The judge said he was removing Yulia from the position of court magician and ordered to transfer him to the potion factory. The master could not help Yulia with this, but thanks to him the hero was at least not sentenced to death. Instead, His elite court mage was transferred to the potion factory. 3 years passed, and the hero worked in unsanitary conditions, with rats running around. He decided to stop thinking about it and focus when he was called from Julius's side. There stood 3 men. The tallest of them asked how long the hero intended to keep doing that. The second told him to come to them now, and the third added that he would never finish this in a day. The hero sighed, thinking about the annoying alchemists. A simple way to prepare the potion from Yulia. Raw water and materials taken from demons, who have strong life force and live in the dungeon, need to be placed in a large tank and dissolved with magic to obtain the essence. The hero is engaged in this preparatory work. Other alchemists continued his work, creating potions for restoration. Over 200 alchemists worked around the clock in 3 shifts for meager pay. The men shouted to the hero, hoping he would hear them, demanding not to be ignored and to work harder. The hero laughed at the fact that this was called an important state enterprise and considered it nonsense because it was like throwing money away. The alchemist was called a fool. They said he spoke incomprehensible things, and that an ordinary mage was trying to act smart, and a third added that Julius is not an alchemist, so he should not babble as if he understands everything. The hero said that he saw they were quite talkative. The tall alchemist asked him to hurry because he did not want to work overtime. According to the hero's mentor, the alchemists of Zvik have become corrupted due to industrialization, and this is what happens when people become corrupted. The hero said that if problems arose, he would be blamed because he was the only one who did it, although the work was simple and no alchemist could do it, and he believed that it was undoubtedly the prince's merit. The alchemist said that the hero was unwelcome here and should be proud of their work. The hero got angry, silently asked them to be quiet, and decided not to let this place destroy him, while a question came from the side asking what everyone was doing here. It was factory director Ree. One of the alchemists told him that Julius was at it again. Ree asked the hero how far he had progressed. The hero replied about 80%, and then the director ordered to immediately give them the raw materials. The hero asked if it was serious. Henri ordered him to move, and he had to obey. The elixir was 20% less effective, so he said he would not take responsibility. The alchemists, leaving, laughed and called him a former genius. Henri asked the hero if he agreed, and the hero replied that they would ruin everything someday. The man said that if Yuli wants to return, he should be more compliant. The hero asked what to do if complaints were filed against them. Henri replied that it does not matter, and that he should focus on mass production. And Yuli said that it would cost the lives of adventurers and soldiers. The man replied that they had enough supplies to replace them. The hero grimaced and asked again. The hero clenched his fists, realizing what the nobility really thought of them. Henry told Julius to be prudent, and not to forget that he owed him for hiring the traitor. Someone was eavesdropping on them. The man said not to forget that Gon wanted to help him, but Julius did not understand what he meant. Honoré said that the hero is good but does not try hard enough. He did not want to die like that. But if he tries, he can regain the title of court mage. The hero did not believe that this hell would end. The man added that this is, if the prince allows. When he left, he told Yulia to work hard and get rid of the rats. The hero considered his life cursed. Picking up the apple core, the hero realized that a thieving rat had settled in the factory. Thieving rats are low-rank monsters. They are omnivorous, disgusting, and steal food. He wondered where they stole so much food from. Sometimes it seemed to him that they lived better than people. Sounds came from the wardrobe, and the hero was frightened. The hero approached the wardrobe with fear and said it was unexpected because there seemed to be a big rat inside. He began to cast magic and asked the rat not to be offended. He opened the wardrobe, and inside was a girl who began to squeak like a mouse. The hero was caught off guard and did not understand what it was. Guantalabrins are dungeons owned and managed by the kingdom of Zvik. Adventurers seeking to get rich gather there, and by exploring the labyrinths, they bring great wealth and resources to the country. Restorative potions are a strategic commodity in the great national project of labyrinth research, and an important item that sells well and brings income to the country. The hero wondered who this girl was while she continued to imitate the squeak of a mouse. The staff was raised close to his forehead. The elf cast a paralysis spell on the hero. He fell to the ground, trembling, and was surprised that this girl was a witch. She said it was not funny. The girl became bored because she did the same trick again. The hero managed to get up and asked what she was talking about, but the paralysis was still in effect. She, smiling, told him not to even try because he would not be able to move. They called from the cleansing side. The other girl came up and asked how everything went. Glenn told her sister that she considered it a great success because they had everything they needed. The boy did not understand what that meant. The girl hugged him, apologized, and said that he needed to endure a little. The girls said it was already time for them to hide. The hero did not understand if it was true. Klein pushed the cart and said that kidnapping was a good idea, and finally Yule realized that they wanted to kidnap him. This is how the hero ended up in this place. A lot of time has passed since then. The paralysis went away, but he could not use magic. He was afraid that they would kill him. Klein noticed that the boy had already woken up. The second girl entered the carriage, said that she already knew the hero was resistant to any kind of damage, and asked if he had regained consciousness. Klein replied that it seemed he had regained consciousness. The boy was surprised that these two girls turned out to be his killers. He saw the ears and realized they were elves. The taller girl said it was logical because he was a court magician, and that was promising. Klein replied that one cannot be too careful. The hero freed the mouth and shouted that he did not know what they wanted, but if they did not want trouble, they would have to let him go. They immediately covered his mouth with their hand and asked him to promise not to make noise, otherwise he would have big problems. The girl asked if he understood her, but that boy was then only thinking about how close she was to him. Julius asked if they even knew who he was, because he was a court magician, but the girl corrected him, saying that he was a former court magician and felt sorry for him. She said that he was clinging to past glory, and it was pathetic. The guy thought that something was wrong with her. The other girl pulled Clem away from the boy and told her to stop enjoying it. Clem wanted to object, but Roger said there were no excuses, and enjoying someone else's suffering is bad. Clem turned away and said it was not so. Maple shuddered and said that she just likes to watch others suffer, and that everyone does that. The hero broke out in a sweat, thinking she was a real sadist and that no one does that. Raja said that the hero should have difficulty because of the bracelets on his hands. The hero only now saw the bracelets of silence on himself. It is a bracelet that blocks magic and is often worn by servants. Now the boy understood why he could not use magic. They asked if the hero had any questions, and he asked who they were, if this was a kidnapping, and if he was definitely their target, and also asked not to touch his past, after which the girls began whispering among themselves. Turning to him, they finally introduced themselves as Maple and Raja, and said that they were attractive elven spies. Maple said he was right about the kidnapping, but the boy was skeptical, wondering what kind of strange people had kidnapped him, and whether those people really called themselves beautiful, and Raja could tell from his face that he did not believe them. The girl gave him proof. The boy was surprised that they had stolen the sphere and said that the director would probably be very angry. The sphere is a crystallized form of high-density magic used as an auxiliary energy source for large magical and alchemical devices, and is very expensive. The hero guessed that this might close the factory. Clen nearby quietly giggled. The girl raised her finger and said they were right because they stole it from the one who tormented him, and the hero agreed with her, but then said it wasn't her because she also tormented him, and she said never say that again. The man remembered that they called themselves spies, and said that they looked more like dancers in a bar. The girls said that they did not like the Zvik's clothing because it was too heavy, and that it was ordinary clothing in their kingdom. The hero said that they stole the royal potion-making skills and called it a comedy performance. The girls did not understand why he said that, and Gon replied that he was not an alchemist, but an elite mage, but they remained silent. Clen said he was not mistaken. Raja said they had been observing the factory for a month to understand who the best alchemist was, and without a doubt it was Julius. The Maple was rejoicing and said that in this country the brewing of potions had ended, and it was a complete disaster, while the hero considered her rude. Julius said that he was a mage so they could make potions without him. Rajas added that it was no wonder he didn't understand, because he probably thought that because of the prince he would stay at the factory for a long time and have no time for anything. The hero was surprised that they seemed to know everything about him. Raja said that it was true, and maybe he did not realize it, but in fact Julius was behind the entire factory. Too much magic kept the factory running. The boy objected and said that it did not concern him. He did not want to be near them and did not want to think about it at all. He did not care what would happen to the factory, and asked where they were taking him. Raja said that they are taking him to the land of the desert elves, Sampalu. The hero had never heard of it, and even less thought that he would ever get there. He didn't even know where the desert was. Maple told him about a beautiful oasis, and really wanted to show him the sparkling oasis. The hero replied that he did not know what an oasis was. Raja wanted him to work in the very center of the country. She regretted that it had come to this. She approached him and said that they do not want to worsen the situation, and he just has to trust them. The man agreed and asked them to leave him alone because he trusted them. He did not understand how he ended up in such a situation. Clin sarcastically asked why he was sad. The hero thought what a strange company they had. Raja, Fluffy, and Clin's sadist. Raja said that everything is free, and the city mayor promised to give him his own workshop and an elven wife, because it is much better than working for a low salary at a factory. Clen said she doesn't think the former elite mage will complain. The guy asked her to be quiet. He shrugged it off and replied that he was actually already half free from that hell. Maple sneered and said that he achieved this by flirting with the factory director, and they were almost about to go together into the forbidden world. The hero shouted and scolded her. Raja asked Maple to forgive her because she did not do it intentionally. Raja explained that the head of the city will tell the details himself and it is not too late to ask something. The hero said that it was nothing. He thought a short break would be enough, and then he would return home. Klen replied that he would no longer be able to return. Raja said that only from indirect evidence was it seen that he was a provocateur, could not accept his unfavorable position, so he took the most important thing and ran away. The hero resigned himself and told them to take him anywhere, and the Raja thanked him. Maple took out a bag and offered him to climb into it. He asked why another bag was needed. She explained that the entrance to Shambala is secret. He sent her away, saying that he is a guest. He shouted that there should be no bags and bullying because he is going to their country as a specialist and does not intend to end up in a bag. Glenn reminded that it was a kidnapping, and Raja, who had forgotten about it, also remembered. The hero asked what was wrong with him, but he still refused, so Glenn pulled out his staff again and used paralysis magic. He fell, and Maple wished him good night. Raja leaned over and said she had long been watching his efforts, and now he could rest peacefully. The boy liked her pleasant scent. In the kingdom of Zvik, few know about Shambala. Although they are neighbors, no one has even marked it on the maps. Even he, the former court magician, did not know about the elves living in the desert. Voices asked him to wake up and asked if he was alive. The hero thought that if he did not wake up, it was all over for him. They whispered that if he did not wake up, his face would be covered with kisses. The hero felt that if he did not wake up, social death awaited him. The girl said she would count to 3 and began the countdown. The hero opened his eyes. A gloomy hissing animal appeared before him. The hero shouted, not understanding what it was, and the Maple replied that it was a desert long-tailed rat. She asked if he was really afraid that she would bite him, and added that it was unfortunate. He mentally scolded the girl and asked where they were. The girl replied that they were in Shambala, in the house of the city mayor. 2 people were just coming towards them. Klen turned around and told the man that Yuli had woken up. The man thanked Klen and said that it was good that Yuli was safe. He bowed and greeted the hero in Shambala, introducing himself as Shamsil, the mayor of the city. He smiled and said that he hoped the hero enjoyed the journey with his beautiful daughters. The hero sarcastically said that it was definitely a great program, especially that old sack they put on his head. The man apologized for everything that happened. The man looked reproachfully at his daughters and said that he had warned them. Clinton said that with Yule, if you think about it, everything is fine. He was even happy. Maybe a masochist. Yule shouted that he is not happy. He said he is just glad he was released and finally feels his hands, and the man replied that it is good. Shamshil decided to get down to business. Many girls entered the room. The hero did not understand what it meant. The boy was surprised. The man asked whom Yuli would choose among them. Seeing the hero's surprise, the man asked if he had already been told. The hero did not know it was serious. Ken said that she had already told him about it and that Julius was just delirious. Shimura said that they want him to fully use his skills in their country, and in return they promised him a good reward, a wonderful life, his own alchemy workshop, and a wife who will love him. Thus the hero can choose a girl to his liking. Julius asked how he could talk about it with such a face. The man inquired what the hero was really against, and whether his wife had servants. The hero replied that only nobles had servants, and he was a commoner. Shamshil did not know what to do then. She, one of the elves, was embarrassed and looked at Yulia. The girl was embarrassed because he looked at her. The hero was surprised that they really want to marry the man. The hero got out of bed, sighed, and said there was nothing to be done. The girl is at the 10th stop. The hero bowed and apologized to the mayor, explaining that he was not an alchemist, but a court magician. Julius said that it was true. Despite his daughter's words, he had never made potions and therefore was afraid that he would not be able to help them. The man asked to raise his head and said that he had indeed been told about it. The man understood Julius's doubts, but his daughters had never let him down. The hero said that the man seemed to trust them a lot, and he replied that he was truly proud of these 2. Raja said that Julius could make an even better mixture, and Klen added that they stole materials for it, so everything was fine. The man asked the hero to stay. Shamsil said that a new giant labyrinth was actually discovered under Shambala, and the hero was stunned because if it was true, they were lucky to find a large gold mine. The hero said that on the contrary, this could even overthrow the kingdom of Zvik, which has a monopoly on the labyrinth business. The man asked if Mr. Julius understood everything. The hero said that if it was true, they needed to be very careful. Klen did not understand what exactly they needed to be careful about. The hero said that 3 years ago Zwei fought with the neighbors for the riches of the labyrinth. He added that if they mess up the matter, the whole world will turn against them. The man replied that it was true, and that was why he had a request for the hero. Shamsilu needed the hero to prepare a potion from Shambala. The labyrinth is difficult to conquer. To obtain treasures in its depths, a potion is needed, but sacrifices will benefit no one. Fortunately, the labyrinth contains ingredients for the potion, so the cycle of brewing the potion and conquering the labyrinth will continue to bring wealth. But time does not stand still, and if the military from Zvik find out that there is a labyrinth on these lands, they will not stay aside, and Shambala will find itself at the center of the conflict. Therefore, the leader wants to restore order before the start of the battle. If the usage cycle works, the country can be protected. The leader said that he knew it was disrespectful to his magical craft, but still asked. Shamsul asked the hero to become an alchemist who would save Shambala, but the hero hesitated, talking to himself about alchemy. Raja grabbed the hero's hand and begged him to help because they needed his help. Maple grabbed his other hand and also asked for help, and he will help them because they chose him. All the elves in the room immediately began to ask him to give them a chance, and the hero had no doubt that the labyrinth fever would come to this country, and it would be a time of great changes. But if they failed, problems would arise, and the hero doubted that they were truly ready to entrust the future to a man who had never prepared potions. Shamsil said that in his opinion, the hero is a genius, has very high magical abilities, and is smart enough to immediately assess the situation and act wisely. And he not only calls himself a wizard but also has a good heart, and the boss heard that he is sincere in his work. The leader said that the most important thing was what his daughters told him. The hero must understand that there are things more important than instant wealth. The hero did not understand how foolish it was that he was kidnapped by some strange people. The hero realized that they understood him better than he understood them. He shouted that they themselves started pressuring him and should not complain if nothing worked out, but the elves were already confident that he would succeed. The hero shouted that he did not care that he was not an alchemist, but he would do what they wanted. Pointing to himself with his finger, he loudly said that he is super elite, and a joyful shout echoed around. He turned to the leader and said that he did not need a wife, but the old man would not accept refusal, so Shamshil said that he would take them anyway because he needed an assistant. The hero got angry and spitefully said that he wanted to take those two girls, the daughters of the head. They were shocked and did not understand what it meant. The leader asked if the hero really wanted his daughters and if it was a problem, because supposedly he did not want to take a wife because of this. The hero was sure this would make the attacker abandon the plan, but the attacker immediately agreed and Klen could not believe that he chose them. The hero was surprised that both sisters agreed and thought that they had lost their minds. Shamsha, laughing, said that he would not accept refusal at such a late stage, because the hero had already asked for his daughter's hands, so this was not up for discussion. The hero shouted that this was absurd. For the leader, it was important that Yuli also showed them his determination. The leader asked everyone present if they heard it, and they immediately replied that they did. The hero thought about what kind of father he had been. The hero shouted to the girls, asking if they were willing to marry the man, but they were no longer listening. Raja could not believe that he had proposed to her, and Klen said how happy she was. Raja asked if that meant they were already married. Clem called him a child lover. The guy mentally shouted that they could have just said no to him. Julius, giving in, told the boss they would talk about it later, and asked what was going on with the work. Shinshul called his daughters and said that from now on they would help him, and they asked him to give them this. The sister said that they would be happy to work with him, and Maple called the hero names again. He did not know what to do. The girls showed him their country from above, saying that it is the trading state of Shambala, located in the center of the desert, and its cities are scattered across oases, so it thrives thanks to free trade throughout the desert. A new industry will soon appear, a complex of labyrinths. The hero was surprised by what he saw because he had never seen the horizon before. The boss apologized and asked the hero to wait until the evening before going to the workshop. The hero asked why. Shamsil felt awkward saying this, but had just discovered that some parts were missed during the repair. The hero was not against exploring the city. They whispered something to Raji in her ear, and she exclaimed that the repair shop was in very bad condition, and it was impossible to go there now. It didn't even have a roof. The hero asked if it was really in such a neglected state. An elf appeared before him, who, bowing, introduced himself as Slay, and said that he was his secretary, and offered Yuli to go and conduct an inspection of Shambala, and he agreed. Smiling, the hero asked if he could take the opportunity to escape. The chief laughed, replied that it was a problem, and ordered Maple to show the hero the city. The hero asked about her sister, but she said she would take care of the workshop. Raja asked Klein not to humiliate the hero too much, and Klein only replied that she would manage, and the hero was already scared. Shamsil said that the wedding had not even started yet, so there was no need to worry. He only offended the old man and ordered him to be silent. Stepping out of the shadow, the hero immediately cried out from the heat, turned around and asked what this sun was, and the maple replied that it was Shambala. The girl said she dressed that way because of the heat, and the hero was all in black and explained that it was cold in Zvik. When they were walking through the city, Glenn advised not to undress because the sun is strongest and hard to get used to. Julius said it was a wonderful place and asked how they endure it, and Glenn explained that desert elves tolerate the heat well. The secret is in their dark skin. She added that he would get used to it over time. He asked if it was true. The girl said that it is cool in the desert at night. The hero did not think there would be even a little coolness in this place. Maple asked him to buy some clothes, and the man agreed because he would have been burned to ashes before he became an alchemist. The girl suggested going to the main market because there was a good store there. She asked if he was hurt by the sun. He shouted that he was in pain, and she saw it herself. The girl jokingly asked how much longer he would last, and said that he was about to give up, and the boy told her to be quiet and asked when he would change clothes. The clan asked if he wanted to run away from the market, and Julius replied no, because he would die immediately. The girl laughed and said that Julius is indeed a very funny person, to which the boy asked her to be quiet. They reached the main market. The hero asked if there were always so many people there. She said that when the caravan returns, there are more people. She asked him if he liked it. He replied that it looked acceptable. He understood that this was a trading town. The girl said that when he spoke like that, she felt pleased. The guy said he felt like a tourist, but it turned out that clans seemed to have been in Zvik, and she added that now they are in the largest oasis of Shambala, right in the heart of the country. Julius asked if the city mayor had been a king. She said that would be wonderful, but no. The boy asked if that meant they had a republic, but the girl did not know the details because children did not need to know that. The boy became interested in his words about children. The girl asked Julia how old he was. He replied that he was 23 and also asked her age. She said that although it was impolite, she thought she was 18, and the boy was very surprised because he thought she was about 14. The girl did not understand what nonsense this was, because he was the one who proposed to her, so Julius is really bad. The boy said it was a lie. He just asked her to go with him to the clothing store, otherwise he would supposedly die. The girl said she is a good wife and can save her husband. The boy replied that she is resorting to her old tricks again. The merchant, seeing Julius, asked if he was a man and where he had come from. Julius said that he was from the kingdom of Zvik. A merchant who knew this land of potions and labyrinths told the hero that he came from afar, threw him a fruit as a gift, and added that from now on the hero would be his favorite client. The hero agreed and promised to return. The hero did not understand what kind of fruit it was, and the maple told him that it was a momo, which is usually eaten immediately. After a bite, the hero thought it was sweeter and softer than an apple. The boy gave Clint a fruit and asked if she wanted it, saying that if not, it was no big deal, but he added that she would take it. The boy noticed a strange cat on the side, and she wondered what it was. When the hero called the creature a cat, he shouted that it was not an ordinary cat, but a cat person. The boy wanted to pet him and said he had never seen a big cat talk. The cat, extending its claws, asked if he wanted to fight. The boy apologized and asked not to be offended. As an apology, he decided to buy her something. He asked if Zvik used coins and handed her a silver coin. The cat forgave him for today. As a farewell, she said she would brag that she met a strange man from Zvik. Seeing that Maple was not eating the fruit, the man thought she did not like it, but she said that was not the case. He added that one should eat with pleasure and suggested swapping the fruit for meat if she did not enjoy it. The girl said that it was not worth it and thanked him. The boy did not understand her strange reactions. Having tasted the shashlik, he said it was very tasty. Klen said that the restaurant is quite famous for its desert boa in a sweet and spicy sauce. The desert boa is a small monster with a poisonous needle in its tail. Its meat is tasty and inexpensive. Yule said that he had never seen cat people and asked if there were many people here. Ken replied that about 80% are elves, 20% are beast people, and few come here. She clarified that she knows little about this. Then he asked if other elves also live in the desert. The girl Shaylee said that here it is considered a sign of courtship when a man gives a girl the food he is going to eat. The boy shouted in surprise, then apologized and said he didn't know. The girl laughed and said she lied. He called her a brat. Finally, they got into the right store. As the boy expected, it was quite exotic inside. They were met by a seamstress named Amina. She greeted the boys and offered help today. Clem said who they needed clothes for. Looking at the hero, the elf asked what kind of outfit that was for a kamikaze, and told him to take off his coat indoors. Amina started looking for something and said that the man should wear a toga and a cloak. The hero looked, noticed this, and Glenn said that elves do not wear pants. The boy shouted and asked if she was serious. The girl smiled and asked if he did not believe her. He inquired if she found it funny to laugh at foreigners, and she replied that she did. Finally finding clothes, Yuli began trying everything on. The seamstress said she had always dreamed of trying to alter other people's clothes and thanked him for the visit. She planned to earn well, so she needed to try on a lot. When the boy tried on many clothes, he asked if it was enough, but Clan and the seamstress thought nothing fit, and he sighed, saying that all his clothes were the same and he felt like he had already tried everything on. Seeing one suit, he asked Maple to look at it, saw that it cost 20 gold, and asked if it would fit him, and the girl called him. Clan asked Amina about this outfit. She said it was beautiful. The boy just realized that it really cost 20 gold coins. In different countries, coins differ, but everywhere the basic coin is the same. 1 gold coin equals 10 large silver coins. A large gold coin equals 10 gold coins. A large silver coin equals 10 large silver coins. A regular silver coin equals 10 large copper coins. There was also a noble banknote equal to 1 large gold coin, and the monthly salary of a factory worker is 10 gold coins and 5 large silver coins. According to the mayor, the coins are approximately the same value. Clen said not to worry because the mayor will pay for everything. Julia said he would prefer something more modest, but Clem disagreed because clothing reveals a worldly nature. The boy agreed, but still thought that the outfits stood out and even had a gold thread. The girl thought it was better than being underestimated. The guy agreed, but 20 gold coins is the salary for 2 months. The seamstress said that now he can just try it on for free, and when he was going to the dressing room, she shouted that if he dirties it, he will have to buy it. After changing clothes, he asked how it looked, and the girls did not expect it to suit him so well, and the guy felt quite comfortable in it. Amina said that even 20 gold coins would be a good deal, because this fabric was carefully woven with gold threads and dyed with rare dyes, and it is a true masterpiece. Amina sewed this for a wealthy merchant from one country, but he went bankrupt and could not redeem it. Maple agreed that he looked good, and Julius asked how many times she would repeat it. The girl replied that because he looked like a prince from a fairy tale, he asked if it was true, and she repeated that it was. Amina also said that it suits him very well and called the hero a dear prince. But he understood that she said this only because she wanted him to be bought. Clean was sure that Julio was tired of working at Zvik, so it was a good start, and he agreed with her. Being a court magician was not bad, but all his work was dirty and thankless. Maple asked if the boy would take off his coat, but he decided to keep it on. He was starting a new life in this country and from now on wanted to live with dignity. He inquired if anything else was needed, and the girl said they needed a spare set of clothes and a nightshirt. In the labyrinths, there are various monsters. Usually, their strength and the loot they drop increase as you progress through the levels. But do not underestimate labyrinths. As is known, greed spares no one. No wealth is worth a human life. When they went further, the hero asked what kind of place it was. Clen said they were in the thickets of Shambala, and the boy decided to clarify if it was safe here. The girl replied with a smirk that it was very dangerous. He shouted irritably that she should not take guests to such places. She said he should not worry because the worst that could happen was a blow to the head. He angrily said that it sounded as if it really was so. Clem said that she often visits this place, so everything will be fine. He asked if it was true. She was sure that on a tour you need to see such places too, because besides wealthy neighborhoods, there are also poor ones. The guy assumed that there was a recession in their country, and the girl confirmed it, adding that not everyone has a job and she could say that for sure. She said that destitute criminals and thieves did everything to survive. People had no ways to earn money, and the gap between the rich and the poor was widening. There were also not enough farmers in the desert. The boy thought that sounded very serious. Maple said that if they mastered the labyrinth, there would be more work. The girl was confident that this would help everyone, and the boy agreed with her. He asked her if there were any other labyrinths somewhere. She said there were several in the desert, and it takes half an hour by camel to get to the nearest one. The boy offered to take him there because he himself wanted to see what it was like. When they were driving, the man thought that he had underestimated the desert. The piercing sun and heat dust do not relent. It is much harsher here than he imagined. Finally, they reached the place, and the boy saw the entrance. It was the first labyrinth of Shambala. Clen was called aside, and she saw Tia. Tio was a traveler. Julius and Maple both noticed how fluffy Tio was. The traveler asked if they would all go into the labyrinth together. Maple replied that they would not go inside, and that it was just a tour. The hero looked over the blade, said he was just checking the place and nothing serious, and asked if he could take this dagger. Tia said that there would be strong enemies there and asked if they were sure, and the girl replied that everything was fine. But Julius had already grabbed Clan and said that together they would manage. Glenn shouted in surprise as he began pulling her toward the entrance, and Tia waved to them, thinking they wouldn't manage together, and said she would wait for them there, and if anything went wrong, they should return immediately. During the labyrinth inspection, the hero said it resembled the one in the kingdom of Zvik, and Klin noted that the dungeon was strange. There was not even sunlight here, but at least everything was visible. She looked back and wondered if they would really go further. The boy replied that of course they would go, but if they did not fight, they would not pass the test. The girl said that her magic was not very suitable for killings and therefore practically useless. Her only attack was an ice ball. The boy reminded her that when they met, she immediately used paralysis magic on him. She replied that it was different. He patted her on the head and said that she made him tremble with fear, so she should be confident, and asked her to stand behind him because he would be in front. He said that he should not be underestimated because he served in the army for 3 years. It will be an easy fight, and when they return, they will tell her sister about his heroism. The girl said that if he thinks he is their man, he is mistaken, but she did not finish speaking because he began to walk away. A passage appeared ahead, and the hero, looking there, counted 8 goblins. Goblins are low-level monsters that act in packs and attack together. The hero said he would go from behind and clear the way, and she has to deal with those in front. This surprised the girl. The hero disappeared into the portal, then appeared, jumping out of it from above. He rushed towards the seated goblins, brandishing his blade. One of the goblins sensed him and began to attack, but the hero dodged, hid in the portal, and teased him. Finding himself behind one of them, he cut off the monster's head. Maple and the goblin looked at each other in surprise. Grabbing the staff, the girl finally released the ice ball and killed the monster. The boy was surprised by the percentage of the drop and the size of the crystals. The girl, seeing the object in his hand, asked what it was. The boy wondered if she really didn't know, and she shouted that, of course she knew. She said she had simply never seen anyone fight so easily because it is very difficult. The guy said that everyone does that in Zvik. The girl read that they are some kind of fighters, and that cannot be true, but the guy cheekily replied that he can. Clen angrily began to hit him. The boy said that it was his trait, at least his magic could be combative. He remembered that his master was also angry with him, and said not to use strategic magic recklessly, because if it fails, he would be sent to the past or the future. But the hero considered her useful. He did not like how she dragged him in. Maple thought he was crazy. The hero said he was already better and they would speed up. The girl was shocked that they would go even lower because she thought it was a one-time action. Seeing the desert boa, the hero rejoiced and ordered the monster to come closer because he would cut it down, impaled one monster on the sword, asked what kind of creature it was, and Maple replied that it was a scorpion. But after defeating it, he only later found out that it was a sand lizard. The girl asked him to leave, he was having fun, replied that he was very happy, and showed her his tail. He said that he had never seen all these monsters before, so it's fun. The girl replied that it was not funny and that he was acting like a maniac. The boy was not satisfied with the answer. She added that he was capturing dungeons that others had worked hard to conquer, just for fun. He patted her on the head and apologized. She asked what the dungeons in Zvik were like, and he said they were full of rats and wolves, more precisely thieving rats and snow wolves, and there were also many people there. He said that at the upper levels of the dungeon they hunted in crowds, so there were no treasures left there and they had to go down lower, but the lower they went, the stronger the monsters, and most of them died immediately. The dungeon could not be entered lightly. The girl did not find it funny at all. Yuli asked if there was an adventurers guild in Shambala, and it turned out that it had not been created yet. The boy asked if this had caused any problems, and the girl explained that the army and border guards were hunting desert monsters. She said that workers are used for routine work and guilds are not needed. There are few adventurers in Shambala and there is little to earn there. The guy told her not to worry because he believes dawn is waiting for them. There are many labyrinths there. How can this be unprofitable? In front of them stood giant doors, and the boy did not know what it was. On the door, he saw a sign similar to a stop road sign. The girl shouted that they should not go any further, and the boy was surprised that they had come this far. Clinton insisted that they could not go any further, but the boy did not understand why. She explained that there was a very strong boss there, and they had already suffered losses, so they had to wait until the potion was made. He smiled, talking about how much work he had, and then suggested quickly checking. The girl screamed in surprise and asked why he needed it. She tried to stop him and asked him to wait because she really couldn't go there. Her sister would be very angry. He told her not to worry because Raja wouldn't find out until they told her. He did not hide his joy when she begged him not to go. Plen said he could not contradict her and asked him to wait, but the boy insisted, wanted to peek, and eventually managed to open the door. Inside was a chimera, a monster with the head of a lion and a goat, with eagle wings and a snake tail. The monster roared and lunged at them. The boy was thrilled because this was exactly what he had been waiting for. The girl behind was scared and said that her sister would definitely kill her. The guy dodged the blow and shouted that this is the boss of the floor and he is very big. Clint panicked and told Yulia that they wouldn't manage. The guy turned around, said he had weakened him, and ordered the girl to attack. The monster struck again, but Yuli dodged and ended up beside him. The serpent-like tail aimed at the hero, and he opened a portal. Jumping to the other side, he began to recite the spell. When he faced the boss, he cast a fireball and was shocked that it didn't work. The boy shouted, called the clan, and she cast a spell of deadly poison and paralysis. The monster's magical resistance, its muscle strength, defense, and agility immediately began to weaken. The boy who was standing aside also attacked him. Suddenly, a monster's face appeared from the smoke, and Julius smiled. A blow rang out, breaking through the floor. The girl screamed and called him, and he replied that everything was fine. He managed to fly out before the blow and said that they were almost finished. Landing on the lion's head of the chimera, the hero plunged the blade and caused an explosive spell. The inside of the monster's head began to flicker, light spreading throughout its entire body. The monster was defeated and its body fell. The hero, landing, finally exhaled and said he was tired. The girl was surprised by his strength. The boy looked at this broken blade and said that the monster was quite strong, and the swords were fragile. The girl threw her arms around his neck and said that he succeeded. The girl did not believe that he defeated the boss and praised him, saying that he was very strong. The boy, embarrassed, said that it was understandable because he was an elite mage. The hero's whole body hurt, and he said they could already go home. The girl agreed with him, but suddenly they noticed a treasure chest falling from the boss on the second level. Peeking inside, they were both surprised and did not understand what it was. The boy and the girl are looking at the luxurious palace. The girl says that it was built with city money and that the old man knows his business well, and the boy admires the building. The girl explains that there was an old temple here at first, but they planted various flowers. The hero says happily that he really likes it here. A squirrel sits on the girl's hand and someone in the house warmly welcomes the heroes. A beautiful elf girl in a black dress reproaches them for walking for so long, and the boy mutters embarrassedly that it is already night. The girl who came with him mockingly says that he is staring. The boy categorically denies it. He is trying to justify himself. The elf in the black dress is very shy and asks if it suits her. Uli praises her that everything looks good. Everyone is very embarrassed. The boy says he needs to go to the workshop and asks to be shown everything. The elf in black offers to help. They go deeper into the palace and, looking at the entrance with the pedestal, the boy assumes they tried to recreate the potion factory. The elf agrees and says they would like to hear his opinion later. The elf woman says with satisfaction that she knew they made the right choice. He says awkwardly that anyone could have done it, but he will not let them down. Another girl notices the sparkle in his eyes. He squats down and says that it will be difficult to compare with the original, but the work is done excellently. The elf happily asks again. Julius says that he needs a stick and materials to do his work. She says she will send them as soon as she can. Another person notes that now they can start attacking the labyrinth. The man replies that he has dealt with the chimera and the first one. The elf in black is surprised. Her sister, crossing her arms over her chest, confidently says she can say no, thank you. The guy behind reminds her that she has been nervous all along. The girl next to Yuli shows that golden topaz, colorless horned, and blue-black obsidian fell out of the chimera, while another elf admires them and says that such a combination looks like a coincidence. Julius casually asks about the residence structure, and the girl in the dress is embarrassed by this question. She invites him to the room, and he, in turn, asks why she is nervous about this question. Another elf hints to him that this question will affect him too, and he tells her to be quiet. The girl shows him the rooms, the living room, and the dining room. The boy thinks that it is quite nice there. He notices the things and asks why they were brought. The elf in the dress replies that they are all theirs and adds that they had no choice. Another says that the plush bunny is hers. The elf in the dress shyly says that he chose them. Another notes that he will get used to marriage. The guy realizes that he completely forgot about this problem. He asks what is upstairs. They answer that their shared room is upstairs. The boy has a bad feeling. He runs upstairs, enters the room, and asks what it is. There is a large canopy bed here. The room itself is very spacious. The elves stand shyly nearby, and he skeptically says that the room looks like a brothel. Julius reproachfully asks the elf whether she did it on the chieftain's orders or by herself. She says she is not involved in this. They think that it was still the old man's idea. The girl also repeats that the boy needs to be taken under control. The boy asks why she says that, and her sister says that she smells nice. She notices that the girl in the black dress is covered in perfume and shining, looks elegant. She is shy and tries to explain. She remembers the dark-haired elf who said she could influence whether Julius would fall in love with her. Other elves are also eager to help her with this matter and give advice. Uli understood that the problem was with the secretary. Another elf noticed that the girl was pleasant when she was angry. That man says that the girl can go home because he does not need anything like that. Another elf says that according to the law of Shambala, spouses sleep together, but the heroes do not agree with her. The boy recalls their conversation with the old man, apologizes to the girls, and says he was just teasing him, and Julia suggests going home quietly because he definitely won't run away. They confidently tells him that the mayor's orders are final for them, and they cannot return. One of the girls is trying to convince him. Another is surprised by her bold proposals, but the boy remains firm in his opinion. She asks him uncomfortable questions, and he tries to deny everything. The elf says that Julius does a lot for Shambala and should be rewarded for his work. Another agrees with her, and the boy does not understand their logic. They approach him from both sides. One says that they personally changed the boy's life and therefore must take responsibility. The other agrees and gives the signal to attack him. They are eventually lying on the bed. The girl is lying on top of Julia. At this awkward moment, the mayor enters the room and announces that a special banquet has been prepared for the boy. The heroes scream in surprise. The old man clears his throat and apologizes. After this, he goes and, addressing one of the elves named Klin, says that he leaves the rest to her, makes an inappropriate assumption that outrages the boy and the girl, and from this begins the hectic life in Shambala. In the kingdom of Zvik, a storm rages and lightning flashes, while a bald man named Heinrich sits in his office and cannot believe the information he has received. He believes that although His Majesty appointed him as the head of the elixir factory, and he is one of the most influential nobles in all of Zvik, he still cannot meet the plan for the next month. This thought makes the man very angry. Through Julius Henry, he ended up in such a difficult situation. The man found out that 2 spheres were stolen, 2 production lines were stopped, and that man also stole secret documents. Heinrich considers this a true betrayal. At the same time, he realized that he could not report this anywhere, because then he would be held accountable as the leader. The man cannot allow this information to reach His Majesty. He is very angry, pounds his fist on the table, and curses Julia. At that moment, the butler brings him a letter in the office, and Henry pretends that nothing has happened. The servant says that a letter has arrived from the royal palace. The letter stated that production must be doubled. The man looked at the letters in shock and nervously said that they would not be able to increase production without losing efficiency. Henry does not understand how they can increase the order under such circumstances. The servant says that because of the war with neighboring countries, they need more goods. The angry man throws a jug at him, which breaks against the wall. The steward suggests telling the truth. The man understands that it will end badly, and orders to add 30% to the potion and increase production. That is, as he says, to bring the 4 eyes to the maximum. The servant says that complaints have come from high-ranking alchemists, and Heinrich reproachfully replies that Julius did all this work himself, so they should manage as well. The butler considers this decision a complete failure, and the man shouted at him not to criticize the orders of his superiors. Henry pours himself the glass of liquor and reassures himself that people will continue to buy their potions. He is confident that as long as labyrinths and wars exist, the business will continue, because there is simply no factory of mass production like this one. Julius meets a long-haired man in a white jumpsuit named Marius with a cigarette in his mouth, and asks him if the hero is going to war again, and he's very surprised to see him. Longhair says that if he decides to stop being a wizard, it is the end for him. The guy nicknamed Smile replies that he is tired of it, and Marius points at him and asks who he has become. Julius says with satisfaction that he has become an alchemist. The boy suddenly opens his eyes and realizes that it was only a dream. The sun is just beginning to rise above the horizon. Yuli goes out onto this balcony and looks into the distance at the sea. The boy stretches and thinks that he drank too much yesterday. He fondly recalls how the mayor constantly poured him drinks, and does not understand why the elders want the youth to drink a lot. The boy also thinks about sleep. He remembers Marius, his master, and hopes that the boys are okay. At that moment, he sees one of the elven sisters entering the water naked. She does not notice him, and the boy is very embarrassed because of it. Julius blushes up to his ears. The heroine does not understand why she is here naked, while the elf meanwhile goes deeper into the water. The boy approaches closer and hides behind the bush. He, all red, looks at her from his hiding place and excuses himself, saying he did not do it on purpose, and that she herself came up with the idea to bathe here. The elf girl tells herself that the water in Zvik was too cold, but here it is just right. He comes to the sober thought that spying like this is wrong. Suddenly Maple appears nearby and asks the boy if he loves her. He gets scared and doesn't understand how long she has been there. The elf says she has been there since he hid. The boy nervously thinks that the worst of the sisters has found him. She says that she understands Julius's feelings. The girl praises her sister's beauty. The boy reproaches her for speaking like a mayor. The elf asks if her sister is the most beautiful in the world. The boy blushes and cannot find an answer. The clan understands everything anyway. She asks with curiosity if her sister will be happy when she finds out about this. Yuli, on his knees, begs her not to tell her sister anything. Maple thinks she will like this information. The boy says that even in this case he will feel very uncomfortable. She laughs at his embarrassment, and he brushes off the girl. The elf asks the hero again if her sister was beautiful. He, overcoming embarrassment, agrees and compares her to a goddess. After his answer, Maple's eyes lit up, and she said that the answer was completely correct. The elf says that her sister bathes at the same time every day, and speaks too enthusiastically about her love for her sister, so the embarrassed boy begins to doubt whether she is normal. Maple suggests reviewing it once again. Julius says he will not do that again, and she calls him boring. Julius and two sisters are filling the pool with water from a large barrel. The boy looked a little shyly at the girl who was helping him pour. She wipes the sweat from her forehead and notices his gaze. The elf asks him what is wrong. The boy, still recovering from the morning adventure, turns away and says nothing. Yuli is trying to calm down and focus on the matter. Klein says that her sister is too beautiful for it to be possible. He brushed her off. The elf does not understand. The boy looks at the pool and thinks that this will be enough. He counts the ingredients of the restorative potion: water from the oasis, goblin magic stone, herbs, aloe, and date palm seeds. So, the girls put all the magical stones into the pool. They did it obediently. After this, he pours magic into it with his staff. The water begins to bubble. Klein is surprised by the softness of the water, and another elf says she would gladly take such a bath but is already washed. He recalls the morning and shyly tells them that they are distracting him, for which they apologize. The girls fell silent until the boy turned around and said that the basic potion was ready. The elf asks what to do now. The hero explains that something else needs to be added, but he has never done it because alchemists handle that. She asks if everything will be all right. He replies that he has a recipe they stole. Moreover, Yuli is confident that if alchemists can do it, then he can too. The man thinks that the potion for restoration is made from herbs and aloe, but he will add dates for flavor instead of apples, which were put in his wike. They add the rest of the ingredients to the potion. The girls say it looks tasty and smells sweet. Yuli suggests eating it all and mixing it with magic. Maple wishes him luck and says not to worry because he was the most skilled in the factory. The boy begins stirring the potion and feels that the staff is much thicker than he thought, so it becomes heavier for him, and he apologizes to the girls because he might have been wrong. The girls ask if everything is all right and say that it smells delicious, and the boy replies that everything will be ready soon. They had a big pile of candies. The elves looked at them in surprise, and the man looked skeptical. They say with excitement that it is like a fairy tale and are delighted. The boy takes one candy in his hand and examines it. He is not sure that they are supposed to be so jelly-like. Klein eats the candy right from his hand. Yuli reproachfully says that she cannot just eat it because she might get sick. She chooses it and says that it is tasty, soft, tender, and sweet and sour. Another girl doubts whether this candy is really that tasty, and the boy tries to prevent them from trying it because you cannot be 100% sure. The elf, not listening to him, also eats the product and likes it. Maple praises Yulia for creating a new delicacy and calls her a genius. The boy asks if it is really that tasty. The girl suggests trying it, but he refuses and says that it must be checked first. The elves are starting to forgive again. The boy thinks they have lost their minds. At that moment they hear a noise, and the mayor enters the room, reports an emergency situation, and asks if they have any potions. His servant carries a beaten cat on his back. The heroes anxiously recognize that it is Tia. The cat is lying in the bag on its back with closed eyes. The hero's CT condition is miserable. They laid her on the sofa and are amazed at how severe her injuries are, sustained in the dungeon from an attack by a 5th-level ogre. Other cats, crying, ask Hulis to help her because they heard that the potion best heals wounds caused by monsters. The boy sadly thinks that with such a serious wound, the potion will not help. The elf runs up to him and says that they must try. She calls Kling and goes to the pool with candies. Julia is asked what it is, and he replies that it is a restorative elixir that failed. Maple brings one of the candies, and another elf says it's okay. They both add that they felt stronger, while the boy is unsure whether to give the patient something so dubious. The elf objects and shouts that he will never know if he does not try. At first, Maple puts a candy in his mouth. The boy doesn't understand why, and the mayor explains that desert girls have strong roots. She gives the cat a candy, and in an instant the cat transforms and becomes fluffy. Tia opens her eyes and sits on the sofa, healthy and surprised that everything has healed. The others are no less surprised. Everyone happily says that it is a miracle, that it is wonderful, and that the restorative effect is very strong, while the boy, holding the candy in his hands, thinks that the effect is even too strong and better than usual. The mayor remembered the elixir, and this caught the boy's attention. The elder adds that this is a legendary elixir from ancient texts that restores vitality and heals any injury. The mayor considered it a fairy tale. The girls do not understand what he is talking about. The old man says that with him they will be able to resist the potions from Zvik, and that they need to establish a guild as soon as possible, while the elves say there is a lot of work and there will be even more. Just as Julius wants to say something, the mayor asks him to set up mass production of the elixir. The elder adds that the boy must do it at any cost, but he seriously says that he must refuse. Everyone is looking at him tensely. Yuli shows the candy and says that it is a complete failure, and that he, as the mayor, must understand this. The size of the old man, and he agrees. The boy is sitting at the table reading books. Maple is sitting nearby. Another elf approaches them with a plate of fruit. The boy believes that after this he tried many times to make elixirs, but nothing worked out. Yuli does not understand the reason. He said that he misunderstood the basics of alchemy and could study them in his wife's library, but putting it into practice would be difficult. Maple asks why he needs the potion and adds that candies are also suitable. Another elf agrees with her. The man explains that if they use the candy in Shambala, there will be no problems, and the travelers will become stronger. But he also adds that they are not sold, because they are very effective, and can instantly cure a very sick person. The guy is wondering how much they will cost in that case. The clan already sitting on his shoulder asks again. He says they simply won't earn anything. Another elf says that it is a lot of money, over 100 large gold coins. Throwing a candy to Maple, the guy replies that for adventurers it is too expensive and makes no sense if they cannot buy it. Glenn asks if it is possible to do the same as with potions. The man notes that it would be too cheap then. He suggests selling the elixir to other countries. Julius believes that the elixir is too valuable because it can be used to create an immortal army. The boy adds that this legendary elixir can destroy not only Shambala, but the entire world, and the elf agrees with this terrifying story. Yuli believes that they need a potion slightly better than the one at Zwik, and in such quantity to start a war in the market. He concludes that right now they cannot solve any of these problems, and says it would be good if it were possible to divide the power of the elixir. The elf supports the boy, praises him for creating the legendary candy, and calls him the best. And Yuli says contentedly that it is because he is elite. Maple asks if Julius can solve this problem, and Julius says he is working on it. The elf says that she will have to go help the mayor of the city. Maple anxiously notes that he does not want him to faint from exhaustion. He assures them that it is not a problem. He is just very bored. The girls believe him and are already about to leave. But then one of them approaches the boy. Maple kisses the boy on the cheek and tells him to be polite. The boy shouts at her indignantly as she runs away. He understands that they cannot manage without these herbs. He is again thinking about the possibility of sharing the power of the elixir. The boy reaches for a slice of orange on the fruit plate. The pieces stick together like an accordion. He keeps thinking about it. Two cats thank Yuli for helping their sister. The boy asks how she feels. They reply that she is fine, but resting today. One of the cats adds that she mumbles the name Julia and smiles strangely. The hero has a bad feeling. Yuli is packing a box for the trip and finds out if anyone is injured because he needs to test some potions. They reply that there are many potions in the dungeon and thank him. Julius gives him a vessel with a potion and says to give it to the wounded man and the lever to you. At that moment, someone approaches them and asks what this man is doing here. He is a huge humanoid tiger named Marmar, who is an adventurer, and the cats say he is second in the dungeon. The cats reproach him for such behavior, saying that it was Julius who helped their sister. Marmar shrugs and says he does not know him. Tiger mockingly says that his sister did not even survive in the dungeon. He shouts that his time has come. The cat tries to convince him, but he pushes her away and says that he hates people, and even looking at that man makes him want to kill him. And Yulia smiles and says that the more wounded the better. The boy teases the tiger and it attacks him with a scream. After some time, Julius comes to the mayor. In the office with him stand two sisters and a dark-haired elf. The mayor asks what happened. He places the potion on the table in the office, and the old man looks at the vessel with confusion. Everyone in the office noticed the bottle. The guy confidently apologized for the delay, and said that this was exactly the Shambala elixir they had requested. The elf asks how he did it. Julius replies that it is the other side of the original idea. He shows a candy and says that if it doesn't work, use what you have already made. The guy says that the idea came after she cut him a fruit. He thought about dividing the candy and reformulating it. Yulia says that you can even make potions by adding a thick, undiluted solution to water. So he thought the same could be done with candies, and the girls agreed that it was a great idea. The man notes that one candy can produce 100 bottles of potion. Everyone is amazed by such a quantity. The mayor takes the vial in his hands, and the hero says they have solved the problem of mass production. He recalls the fight with the tiger and mockingly says that thanks to the goodwill of the test subjects, the potion has already been tested and they are sure that everything works. He, the mayor, Shakens, and Julius talk about turning the world upside down, and the old man agrees. The girls look at their deal. Maple says that this historic day will later be called the Dawn of Shambala, and her sister agrees. Maple comes to a deserted part of the city with abandoned houses. She enters one of them and greets an old man with a patch over one eye. She tells him that she has a job for him. He recognizes her and calls her Mabel, and she says they haven't seen each other for a long time and addresses him as Rashid. The man confirms that they have not seen each other for a long time. The girl thinks that until recently these slums were her home. She thinks about all the bad deeds she has done. Rashid says that she hasn't changed at all, and she just brushes it off. The girl boasts to him that she already has a husband. He is surprised by this news. He tries to say that she is still a teenager, but the elf confidently asserts that she is already 18 years old. Rashid does not believe this. She sits down and asks him if she already looks grown up. The man agrees with her aloud, though he doubts, and in his thoughts believes that it is not at all so. She advises him to become an adventurer because now that the labyrinth has been excavated, it's time to earn money, and it is more profitable than engaging in bad deeds. At first he doubts, but asks her to assess whether he can manage, and Klen says he can and will be taught. The man has thoughts in his head that this is a hassle. The girl says that if they do nothing, the boys will attack them. The man says it is unbearable, and the elf notes that adventurers are given privileges. He decides to accept her offer and asks if he can talk to people like him. She replies that it would be wonderful. Klen adds that the children help when they can. She recalls how her sister gave her a future that a child from the slums does not have. She just wants to add some life to them. The man agrees. The elf says that this is exactly what she likes about Rashid, and he indignantly states that he does not like that idea. Rashid also notices that the girl has changed, and remembers her when she first arrived after the drying of Lake Mac. He says that she has become more mature because of the man. She is unsure of the answer, and the man laughs a little because of her doubts. But she confidently and passionately says that she is ready for anything for Yulia. Rashid says that she fell in love, and the girl replies that she just wants to tease him and will tease a little, but the man is not impressed. The man takes a sip from the bottle and asks her what Yulia is doing right now. She assumes that he is looking at her sister again and did not expect such a response. Rashid chokes on his drink. The man scolds her and drives her away, but she is completely satisfied with herself. Yuli is standing on the balcony of his house and admits to himself that he was watching Raja again. He understands that it is wrong, but he is deeply impressed by her beauty. The boy remembers his teacher and mentally tells him that Shambala is a wonderful place. Raja approaches him from behind with a bag of groceries and calls him. He flinches in fear. The girl asks what happened. He says everything is fine, but notices that something is wrong with her. She denies it. The boy notices her hand, all of whose fingers are bandaged, takes her hand, and asks the reason. She assures him that everything is fine, but he insists that she used the potion and does not leave her, and the elf tells him not to be so persistent. They come too close and both feel awkward. At this moment, Glenn and the mayor peek into the room with sycophantic faces. The heroes are scared. Glenn says it almost happened. The girl and the boy ask what they are doing here. Maple says she saw him flirting with her sister. The mayor says it's normal for a married couple. The man denies it, and Raja adds that they really are a couple. But Julius asks her not to complicate the situation. He asks the mayor what he wanted. The mayor says they have a small problem. The man asks again what happened. The old man asks him to come to the council meeting in the afternoon. The boy is very surprised by this request, and the girls do not understand why. When they walk to the meeting down the long corridor, the old man says that he is not a king, but the mayor, and is only responsible for managing the city. They enter the hall, and he adds that the council decides how to govern the country. In the hall, two elves are looking at the man, one with white hair and glasses, the other with dark hair and a mustache. Hundreds of elves are also watching him from the stands. The sisters sit on one of the benches. Julius is confident but thinks about the problems he had with the warring factions. The mayor introduces him as a potion master and says his full name. The boy thinks the old man just told him to be quiet. The elf with a mustache says he has heard about him from his people and introduces himself as General Hassam. The white-haired elf introduces himself as Bardiel, master of the merchant guild, disdainfully addresses the boy and looks at him suspiciously, and Julia is outraged by such behavior. The elf suggests starting and says that everyone here supports Mayor Labrath's project, but there is a nuance they do not like. He pointed at Yulia and angrily said that the problem was that he was his wife's husband. This confused the guy. Bardiel accuses the boy of being a cunning pagan who steals his country's technologies and sells them to others, making potions to raise his status and prestige, and says that a merchant would not trust such a person. Raja shouts that they stole the technology and this man has nothing to do with it. Bardiel says that the people from Zvik are not fools and could have planned it all. The crowd begins to support the elf, saying that he wants to enslave their girls, and complains about where the mayor is looking. Julia remains silent. White Herod says that it is easy for the alchemist to brew a potion, but in reality he knows nothing. Maple wants to say something about the elixir, but her sister stops her. The elf turned to them, but the sister said no more because the elixir was kept secret to avoid unnecessary problems, and from the outside it might seem that Julius was using a stolen recipe to gain favor. Hassam joins the conversation and, turning to the elf, says that the boy betrayed his homeland to bless their land and healed many wounded. The crowd picks this up and confirms that Yuli is worthy of their trust. The mayor also says that he is indispensable for their country. Bardiel demands proof of the boy's merits, and the old man asks how they can convince him. An elf with white hair and a split smile offers a reconstruction of Lake Mac. The listeners begin to agree with him, and the meeting ends. Later, Julius sits on the sofa in the mayor's office and exhales heavily. He is thanked for his hard work. The black-haired elf asks how he feels. Julius replies that it is better here than in Zvik. He says he felt like a fish on a chopping board. Klen jokes about it, and he brushed it off. That guy understood the look and said with satisfaction that he would be able to see Shambala from the inside. Yuli believes that the conflict between the executive power and the military traders led by Bardiel has its own structure. The problem is that in a country where trade is fundamental, Bardiel cannot be ignored. The guy thinks it's good that they at least have a positive attitude towards potion trading. Raja stands irritated and asks her if she is angry. The girl confidently confirms that she is. She screams that he is here by their will, and it was very rude to call him an ignoramus and a pagan. Clinton Yuli notes that she is terrible when angry. The elf says she is not carefree enough to stay silent when her husband is offended. The boy is embarrassed by this wording. The girl is also embarrassed. The mayor and the cleaner amuse themselves with the hero's embarrassment. The boy asks what Lake Mac is. The old man says it is a medium-sized lake east of Shambala. He recalls how the water and the lake itself dried up overnight. Rasha says that they still do not know the reason. Klen adds that because of this many people had to move to the slums, and she did too. The mayor places his hand on her head and adds that he then adopted them, and the boy says that a dead lake cannot be revived even if he is not from the elite. Maple turns to him with a pleading look. She begs him to return Lake Mac and says that in exchange he can ask her for anything. Bardiel thinks that the lake dried up overnight. The thriving city perished, and the elves were so frightened by the curse that now no one approaches this place. When he finishes eating, he thinks about the fact that the boy agreed to the reconstruction. The elf smirks, thinking he should have just left because the man is too stupid to understand sarcasm, and he has already learned his reputation in Zvik. Bardiel knows that the man is a court magician who fled before the enemy, was sent to a factory, and then escaped from the country. The elf takes a sip of wine and does not understand how Julius can help them. He calls the mayor Sham Shil and praises the wine. The old man notices that the boy has something they do not. Bardiel asks what a man who constantly runs away can do. The elf gets up from the table, says the conversation is over, thanks the mayor for the invitation to breakfast, and leaves. The old man thinks that Yuli has been here for only a few days. He mentally counts his achievements, such as conquering dungeons, mass potion making, and creating an amazing elixir. The mayor thinks that Bardiel needs to understand that this is reality. At this time, Yuli and his wives were already by the lake. That man confidently says that he will not succeed. He complains that something is wrong with this place. Raja says that the place of the current ruins was once noisy, and Klen adds that there was hell in the desert there. The boy asks what influential people say about what happened to the lake. The elf says they conducted many studies, but no one gave a definitive answer. Yulia suggests that changes in groundwater flow may be the cause. Raja notes that the lake could not have dried up overnight. The man concludes that if they knew the cause, they would have solved the problem themselves. The boy asks to report everything he saw. Klein turns to Julius. She thanks him for restoring the lake, and he shyly says that he has not done anything yet. The girl tells a rude joke, and the boy tells her to get to work, and in response pulls her by the ears. He goes further and realizes that he does not know what he will ask of her. When that man was still in the mayor's office, he said that he was not God. The man finds it hard to say whether he can return the lake. The clan asks if he remembers the wilderness. She says that it has only gotten worse there. and the lake disaster is to blame. The sisters say that if the lake comes back to life again, they will all be able to return home and be safe. The mayor asks him to imagine that he can revive the dried-up oasis. The old man says that his fame will sharply increase. People will call him a hero and depict him on goods, and the clan adds that he will become very elite. He assures them that he cannot resurrect the lakes, and Raja approaches him from behind. She hugs him by the neck from behind and begs him to try because it is very important to them. Maple is trying to seduce him. He angrily asks her what she is doing in the presence of her father. The mayor asks if he should leave. This anger usually becomes even stronger. The boy shouts that he understands. Everyone smiles sweetly and asks him again. The boy awkwardly says that he will have problems if he does not take on this matter. He also does not want Bardiel to continue trying to make his life more difficult. He decided that even if he fails, he must show that he is sincere. Julius remembers saying this, but finding himself in a deserted place, he dies of heat. A maple hangs on his shoulders. She is also very hot, and sweat pours from them like rain. Raja suggests restings until sunset. Others agree. Klein pulls the hero by the cheek and says she is very upset. The boy asks her to stop tormenting him. He pinches her thigh, and she falls off the boy, squealing. The elf is on all fours on the ground. Julia says it is a punishment, and Raja motivates them to move. Maple stops them and says she felt something from the ground, but the boy thinks it is something indecent and tries to stop her. The girl says she feels something thin beneath her. The boy looks at her with surprise. The boy sits down next to her, places his hand on the ground, and closes his eyes. Julia feels a faint magic. He asks Raji how deep this magic is. She says she is not very knowledgeable about such subtleties. Maple says that his sister knows how to be attractive. She denies it and says that she has a sword. The boy puts both hands on the ground, asks them not to quarrel and to come closer to him, says he is going to break through, and Raja asks him what he means. He casts an explosion spell, and the ground beneath his hands cracks and crumbles into large dry pieces. Numerous stone pieces of earth are scattered in all directions over a large distance. The ground beneath the heroes also begins to crumble, and they scream. Everyone falls and splashes loudly into the water. They are carried by the current, lying on their backs and rejoicing that there was water there, and that they are alive. They finally get up, and Raja asks indignantly what kind of magic this is, while the boy awkwardly says that the ground turned out to be more fragile than he thought. But, pointing to the entrance to the dungeon where they were led, adds that it is worth it. They approach closer to the large gate. Huge stems coil around it, and the entrance is carved into the stone wall. They climb onto the threshold, wring the moisture out of their things, and look at the closed door. The boy says that this is a good job. Klen asks to be praised because she was the first to notice something strange. Raja says he no longer wants to praise her. The elf says she didn't even know there was such a cavity here. Yulia suggests that this might be the reason for the water drying up. The sisters agree with him, and the hero says that there is only one thing left to do. He smiles and says that they need to explore the dungeon. The elves are shocked by his words. Raja tries to stop him because she thinks it is a big risk. She notes that he is only an alchemist. The guy says that this is part of their investigation, and that it is boring to just come here and only report. She puts her hands on his shoulders and suggests waiting for the research team. The girl asks her sister for help, but Klen understands that nothing will work out. Breaking free from Raji's hands, he calls them to follow him. She asks what that was. The boy explains that it was a short teleport, but adds that they should not worry about it because someone is in the dungeon. In the dungeon appeared a group of Sahagins, fish-like monsters that are intelligent and skilled in using various weapons, and a group of ants, tree-like monsters that grab living creatures and feed on them. Overall, 2 archers, Sagagan, and 3 ants stood before them. The fish-like monsters shot arrows at the heroes. Yuli teleports behind the Sakagons and jumps down on them. The monsters do not understand what is happening. With one sweep of 2 daggers, he cuts off the heads of the archer monsters. Maple takes a staff and reduces the agility and defense of enemies. The Raja runs past her and with one sting attacks one of the ants, making a large hole in the tree trunk. Maple sends a fireball towards the enemies. Julius cuts off another ant, and Raja says he has gone mad. She asks why the alchemist is at the forefront. The man replies that he is more efficient. The elf notes that this is against the rules. After the battle, Raja admits that she has never seen such magic. Maple, collecting crystals from defeated monsters, suggests that this is why her people did not like her, and the boy also thinks he has a bad character. Raja says that he lacked the agility to succeed. Klein says that he had too much common sense. The boy is outraged that his kidnappers speak like that. After complaints, the investigation continued, and they hid behind the stones, watching the other Sahagins. The boy told his sisters that he would go around from the other side, and they should attack. The girls agreed and were already running into the attack, When the elves charged, Julius thought that these two were among the best in the country. Raja chops off the head of another Sahagan with a sword. That man believes that his sister has a very high combat level and that they can react to his actions. Yuli thinks that they are the most beautiful of all, true adventurers, and that it will be fun. Clint says he misses Sagagan and does not intend to eat fried fish anytime soon. The boy first asks where he came from. The elf replies that he came from the dungeon. He notes that this dungeon was originally wooden, and the monster does not belong to this species. Roja suggests that Lake Mac affects the dungeon, and Aaron does not rule out this option. They approach another gate, and the boy excitedly says that he feels like the boss will come here. But the girls are against them going there as a group of 3. Maple trembles and promises that after the fight she will whip him with a whip. The boy says she can do it lightly, and the sisters think that then he will get off too easily. They go inside and see a hermit crab covered with a hard shell, whose water jet is very dangerous. Julius recognizes the monster and understands that the fight will be difficult due to its impenetrable armor and sharp smell, and at that moment, the monster attacks. They are hiding behind a boulder from the stream of water. Raja says it needs to be weakened. Maple lowers the defense again and the monster prepares to attack. The Raja aimed his chopping strike directly at the monster's claw, but the shell was not damaged. Raja shouts that it is too hard for him. A guy appears next to the monster and presses his hands to the ground, saying that if it doesn't work from above, he will try from below. The monster raises its huge claw over Julius. The girls anxiously call him by name. The boy summons an earth bayonet that appears right under the monster's belly and pierces it through. Looking at the dead monster, Yuli says that they have won. Raja says it was too crazy, and the man standing in front of her says she is too worried. The clan is happy that they won, and the hero agrees with her. The elf notices a treasure chest. Raja asks what is inside. There were 2 chests, one bigger, the other smaller. The boy noticed that the 2 chests appear rarely. Klen says that the big one is for the greedy and the smaller one should be opened. Yulia says that both lids can be opened, and starts with the larger one. Klen is shocked by his carelessness and surprised by the contents. The boy takes out a spool of silk and examines it. The sisters look at the find in surprise. He admits that he has never heard of artifacts that would be a labyrinth trap. The Raja takes the fabric in his hands and marvels that such a thing can be found not only among precious stones. The clan asks if this is fate. The man says to take the fabric if they like it. The girls are very happy about it. Yuli exhales and says that he will never understand women. The boy opens the smaller chest and sees something round on the pile of coins. He does not know what it is. Sierra says that the creature looks like a doll. Julius notes that it is small and strange, but also very cute. The creature asks where it is. The heroes are stunned that it can speak. They are in Shamboli. Sierra introduces herself and calls Julia John. He gets angry, but the robot still registers him. The robot repeats their names, Maple, Sierra, and John. Julius angrily shouts that he is not John, while the girl giggles. Sierra asks the robot to change its name, but it says it cannot. The girl is touched and appoints him as her assistant. The creature says that he is an organizational robot created by the creator to assist him. He invites the heroes to ask any questions. Julius asks why Lake McCloud disappeared. Sierra wonders how the robot can know about it, but he asks them to look in one direction. They see water pouring from a huge crack. The robot explains that a cave has formed under the lake, blocking the underground water flow. The girls happily ask if the oasis will come to life if all the leaking holes are closed. The robot confirms that it will. The question arises as to how exactly to close the holes. Some say it will be quite easy to do with the help of ice magic. Sierra asks Yuli hopefully if he can do something about it. He is surprised and asks why. The girls say it is because he is elitist, an lunatic, and simply because it is him. Yuli is puzzled but flattered. Julia seriously says that it is possible. He is sure there is a way, but the girls are against it and do not want him to go. He says that the Royal Library in Zvik is full of books on this topic, and he will simply borrow them. Maple, with tears in her eyes, shouts no because they have already become a family, and asks if they trust him. The young man with a smile says that they will not listen to him anyway, but he has already decided everything for himself. He responds decisively that this is correct. Sierra says that if he does not return, they will come for him because they like living together, and he asks her not to worry and promises to return soon. Both girls wish him luck and sigh with a smile that they will wait for him at home. Julius enters the portal, thinking that his heart is already in Shambala. The action moves to the kingdom of Zvik. A sinister man sees Julius arriving, and with a sly smile waits to see what will happen next. Yuli notes that long distances are covered on foot. He thinks it will take about half a day to reach his bicycle. He wonders if this world has an end, but understands that the mages do not know this yet. The young man remembers the instructions of his teacher. Do not stray from the path of light. Do not remain in this space and do not go along with others. Julius understands that he knew nothing about the magic of dimensions, except what his master taught him. When he approaches the exit, he wonders what is happening in Zvik now. He is greeted by an elderly nun, whom he smilingly calls the director. The director says with relief that he is fine. Ulie apologizes for the trouble and hands her a package of money. She sadly says that maybe he betrayed the country, but immediately adds that the main thing is, at least he is alive. He asks what the people from the castle wanted. The director replies that they left after a quick search of the shelter. She said that she was promised a reward for him. Julius jokingly called her greedy, and she asked him to stop calling her that as if he were a child. His friend Mari comes and is surprised that Yuli is still in the country, although he caused him so many problems. Marius complains that his workshop was confiscated because the nobility does not like it when common people earn money. Yuli says that he has good feelings for him. Marius jokes that then he should thank the officials. Marius offers to help, even to make a bomb. Julius notices that serious people behave badly and lose control of themselves. Learning that he lives abroad, he invites Yulia to live with him, promising 3 meals and lodging. Julius accepts his offer with gratitude. He believes that Mary has long been his best friend. Marius is ashamed and asks not to be touched. Julia says that he needs to go prepare something. The young man thanks the director for the reception and says that it is already late. Marius asks him to wait. Julius notices that the castle's security is impressive, probably due to the flow of people eager to get rich, but he is sure that it is nothing compared to his teleportation magic. He enters the royal library, hoping that no one is guarding it. A young man sees Elvins, the chief court magician, in the library. He tries to go unnoticed because he cannot allow himself to be discovered. But Elvin sneezes loudly and almost gives him away. Julius panics, realizes that he needs to take all the necessary books and leave as quickly as possible. He quickly gathers the books, thinking that if it weren't for the master, he would have more freedom to search. Julius is afraid of Elvins and simply does not want to deal with him. Having gathered everything needed, he decides with relief that it is time to leave and exits the library. He is glad to finally see his master's face, notices how much gray hair he has, and wishes him a long life. Suddenly he feels that something is wrong and asks confusedly where he is. You assume that he himself spoiled the teleportation spell. Julius looks around and realizes with horror that he has found himself in the middle of the huge empty Colosseum. And this is not a problem on his part, but someone else rewrote the coordinates. Elvin's appearance shows that it is rude to leave without even saying hello. Julius shuddered when he pronounced Elvin's name, and Elvin looked at him sternly, calling him his careless student. Elvin insists on being called Master Elvin, not just Master, and Julius says it does not matter. The master notices disrespect in the student's words, and directly asks why he rewrote the transmission coordinates. He smiles and calls Yulia a foolish student who ran away and now sneaks around like a little thief. The master smiles and says that it would be wise to at least say hello. Yuli takes a fighting stance. Julius asks if all this was really done just for this, and the master promises to release him depending on the answer. Yuli sarcastically apologizes and firmly says that he will not return, and this is his final decision. The master is angry because Julius used dimension magic again, which he had forbidden. The young man replies that it is not for him to decide. He shouts at the teacher not to get arrogant. The teacher and the student stand facing each other, and Julius understands that if he relaxes even for a moment, he will die. Elvin calls his actions mean, but Julius claims that he is no longer a mage, but a new type of alchemist. The master with a sly smile says that now he understands everything. Elvin says that as a former teacher he must punish the careless student. Julius understands that this is very bad. He is preparing to use a special deadly technique and unleashes his most powerful explosive magic, shouting in fury. Julius opposes the master. The master understands that the apprentice is only capable of cheap tricks. He is shocked when he realizes that Yuli put a silence bracelet on him and cut off his magic. The master asks where he learned such tricks. Julius replies that he recently met a guy who knows a bit about this. The man asks if he wants to fight, and with a smile says that, in his opinion, he will surrender. He says that a master cannot be strict with his student and removes his bracelet of silence. But then he delivers a devastating teacher's strike to him, causing Julius to cry out in pain. He says that adults should scold children, and as a reward for winning, he gives him an old book. The man says that he wrote the book about alchemy out of curiosity, and when he became an alchemist, he asks him for forgiveness. He says that he tried to get him back for 3 years and worked very hard to have the charges dropped. Julius thanks him with tears. The master recalls that he wanted to return him when they were destroying the neighboring country. The master orders his foolish apprentice to leave, and Julius suggests that he abandon Zvik and go with him. He refuses, saying that adults are not so free, and Yuli worries that without an owner the estate will decline. Julius hands over the potion, says it is not from his wife, and asks him to accept this gift. The master is worried because he realizes that if this becomes known, the kingdom of Zvik will suffer greatly. He smiles and says that he is getting increasingly bored here and hopes that now he will be able to drink while sitting on the royal throne. Yuli remembers how in childhood he thought that the master had abandoned him and he fell into despair. But now he knows that it was not so. He admits that he still cannot match him. The master calls Shambala a good country and says that he is sorry to say goodbye. The master says goodbye to his foolish apprentice. Yuli shyly asks him to drink moderately. Julius disappears into the portal, thinking that it is time to return to his new home. Meanwhile, in Shambala, the girls report to the mayor about the discovery in the labyrinth under the lake. The mayor looks amazed at the huge precious stones. The girl confirms that it is amazing. The mayor says that the coincidence, which happened twice, is fate. He suggests that the labyrinth has blessed them. Sierra asks if Maple has already made up her mind. Maple says she wants to support him because he seems to her like a person she has known all her life. Maple directly says that Sierra loves Julius. Sierra shyly admits that she does not hate him that much, and Maple agrees with her. The girl shyly thinks that if she were alone with him, she would probably like it. Sierra shyly wonders if he wants to be with her again. The servant says that together they will make Master Julius fall in love with them. The mayor nervously thinks about deceiving him so that he marries his daughters, because it is simply a necessity. The robot congratulates the girl on her upcoming wedding, and she laughs and thanks him. When Julius returns, the robot calls him John. He angrily says that he is not John. Julius asks where everyone else is, and the robot replies that they have already left. He suggests resting until dinner. Julius agrees and asks to be woken up when dinner is ready. The robot mentally tells itself that now Plan B begins to take action. The girl sits by the bed of the sleeping Yulia and says that he has traveled thousands of miles to reach them by the will of fate. She thinks about him. Yuli asks why she looks so sad. Yuli wakes up at dawn and realizes that he has overslept. He thinks that damn golem didn't even wake him up. Suddenly, he is shocked when he sees that one of the girls is sleeping in his bed. The girl in bed wishes Julia good morning, and he asks surprisedly what they are doing here. The girls shyly say that they are just mixing up the beds, and Yuli calls it a pathetic excuse. Julie is outraged that they are dressed like that. The girls say they always dress like that. But the guy yells for them to stop lying. One of the girls cuddles up to him and says that he is too cold and needs to be warmed up. The second sister joins her and says that their plan is working, and Yuli panics, shouting that she is going there too. The boy, trapped on both sides, is completely confused and does not know what to do with these two. The sisters look at him slyly and awkwardly, not intending to back down. Julius, finally losing patience, shouts at them to stop immediately. The sisters continue to tease him. One of them smilingly asks if it is his first time in such a situation. Julius smells a strange odor. He panics and shouts for them to move away from him immediately. The girl begins to smell his hair. One of them praises her sister, and the boy yells at them to stop. One of them whispers in his ear that this is his reward for returning, and advises him to enjoy it. Yuli asks for a minute, loudly saying that he can no longer endure it. One of the girls laughs, says that he always ruins everything, and asks why his stomach is grumbling. She suggests having breakfast because she cannot allow her husband to be hungry. The girl asks her sister to bring her some elven water. While the girls were distracted, Julius runs out of the room, thinking it was very close. The girls appear on the doorstep and promise that next time they will not let him escape. Julius falls onto the bed. The girl apologizes for not waking him up, says she prepared a festive dish, but he was sleeping so soundly that she did not dare. Uli praises how delicious it is. One sister is glad that he liked it, and the other says that her sister practiced for a long time. One of the sisters says she needs to gather information from a book, and the other says she has already conducted research on the strange soil called konkel. Julius is reading in a book about a liquid that instantly hardens and can help if applied to a frozen leek. One of the sisters orders him to do it, but he categorically refuses, asking why it is needed at all. The little golem Naya appears and says he is ready to work. Julius panics and yells at him to be quiet, while his sister continues to tease him. Julius orders the golem to search for coins on the street. The sister is upset by this order, but the golem Naya immediately agrees. Julius thinks that he has never seen a golem with such cleverness, and recalls that labyrinths sometimes yield rare artifacts. One of the sisters says that Nia is nice because he helped her hang the laundry. Another thinks he looks like a little fairy. Julius thinks that such golems are very rare. Meanwhile, his sister scolds him for giving Ni a terrible order. One of the sisters asks you to find out what his plans are for today. He shyly replies that he would like to rest. The sister smiles and suggests that he go shopping with them, which surprises him greatly. Yuli asks if they will tell him the details. One of the sisters says to wait a little and see everything for himself. The boy says he has a bad feeling. The girl smiles and says he will be happy, and another confidently asserts that he will like it. Yuli believes that the sisters are behaving strangely. He understands that after the morning events he cannot relax. He says that he would like to buy ingredients for a cocktail while they are in the city. Kane says they will take care of it, but Julius stubbornly replies that it is his job and he wants to do it perfectly. The girl says that there will be no problems with the trend materials, but there may not be enough stock of the earth crystal on the market. The girls discuss digging a new labyrinth. Julius agrees, but says that its import will take too much time. While Yuli thinks about how nice it would be if it were easier to dig labyrinths, they enter the store. The shop owner, the elf Amina, happily greets the princesses and invites them to come in. She says that everything is ready, although the dress is not yet ready. Yulia is surprised by the mention of the veil. The sisters in wedding dresses ask Yulia if their appearance interests him, but he cannot utter a word. One of the sisters teases him, saying that he really likes looking at her. Yuli panics and tells them to wait. Yuli is completely shocked when he sees that in front of him are his sisters in real wedding dresses. He understands that they lured him here to hint at this. The young man is embarrassed and cannot look at them. The sisters look at him with a smile, and Julius, unable to hold back, says that they are too sweet. Kane continues to tease him, telling him not to hold back, and Julius tries to calm her down, but in vain. Eventually he gives in and suggests going shopping next time. Then he asks what else they need. Kane says goodbye to the other woman and asks her to take care of the matters. Julius asks where they are going next. The girl says that their next stop is a date. Yuli is completely shocked by her words. Kane smilingly asks if it was a date because he is seeing Mabel, and Sierra shyly suggests leaving here. She explains that she is not actually the biological daughter of the city leader, just like Mabel and Sally. The girl explains that the mayor is used to helping orphans and taking them under his wing. And Yuli asks another girl where she is from, but she does not know. The boy asks why she is called a princess. She does not know for sure, but says that old people call her that because maybe she is from some tribe. Sierra explains that she is called that because she resembles the queen who ruled this country when it was green. The girl asks Yuli to tell about himself. He says that his parents abandoned him. He grew up in an orphanage, and then a master took him under his wing and he became a mage. She asks if he has ever dated anyone. He says he only dates men and, embarrassed, chokes on his drink. The girl asks him if he has someone, and he answers that he has no one. She suddenly asks Yu what he thinks about marriage. He replies that he doesn't know, and for them, it is probably a political decision. Sierra wonders if people are like that. He explains that the nobility do so, but he is just a commoner. She sadly asks if he does not love her, and Yulia shyly tries to explain that it is not about that, but she insists that it is a matter of feelings. The girl turns away and quietly says that she does not need the wedding that the parents decided. Sierra directly says that she is happy with him. Julius, completely embarrassed, cannot utter a word and looks away from her frankness. Suddenly, the golem Nia returned and reported that he had collected many coins, after which Julius praised him. Julius happily praises Nia, says he is a good boy, and decides that it is time to go home because he thinks he cannot make up his mind. One of the advisors is outraged that the reason for the disappearance of Lake Mac proposed by Yuli is complete nonsense. He says that they could not find the reason, and this man decided everything. Another advisor approaches him because he did not know the name Julius. The old man asks to remember the desert merchant and now allows him to speak. The old man approaches the table, grabs the bag, and loudly calls Yulia. At the Adventurers Guild, they are greeted by the guild leader Gilliam, who smiles warmly. Julius is embarrassed when Hilliam asks to be called simply Haley and puts his hand on his shoulder. The boy asks if they have earth crystals. Gilly asks why he needs them, but Julia says it's a secret. Gilly regretfully announces that they have run out of earthly crystals. Another explains that the guild is new, and they urgently needed to gather materials for the potion. The man says that it is time to think about exporting the potion, and Yuli agrees that it is a good idea. The elder sees an opportunity in this and decides to start coordinating transport routes with the merchant guilds. Yuli asks for other materials and explains that he has a secret weapon for excavating the labyrinth. The hero, smiling, says that he will dig up the ground and the labyrinth. The sisters are shocked by such recklessness. Kane reminds them that last time they were limited by the lake, and the desert is too vast. Julius smiles and scratches the cat Mabel behind the ear, telling her that she should not do that. The sisters are amazed by her agility, but Yuli says there is no need to worry because he has a plan. He takes out a silver guiding rod. Sierra asks in surprise what it is, and Julius explains that this stick can find a labyrinth buried deep underground. The young man suggests splitting up to find the labyrinth and says that Tio will go with him. Julius says that the day is beautiful while he and Tia are riding a camel through the endless desert. The girl says that sandstorms in this country are rare, and Julius replies that it is always sunny here. Julius blushing says he is a little nervous after their last date. He is panicking and thinks that he does not know where to look. The hero awkwardly says that he has reactions in the lower part of his body and asks not to think about it. She says that he will have to wash himself. He asks why she thinks he likes to wash, and she says that he washes every morning. Julius panics when he realized that she was spying on him, tried to justify himself by saying that her hair was wet, so he thought so. The girl thanks him for the compliment, and he panics and yells at her to forget everything, realizing that it was a bad idea. He tries not to think about it, but he can't. Tia notices that the tip of the stick points in a certain direction. Julius says that it seems they have found a labyrinth, and he asks her to step back to try to break through the entrance. The girl is worried, but he reassures her, saying that everything is under control, although deep down he fears he won't hold up. He strikes the ground, causing a powerful explosion, and opens a passage inward. They find the labyrinth, but it does not suit them. Tia says the door is too far, so they will have to look elsewhere. The girl says that she was very worried when he went to his wife himself to save her. He thanks her, but she replies that she returned of her own free will, not because she was kidnapped. The hero says that they are like family to him. She is very happy to hear this. Suddenly, they notice Mabel. Mabel finds what they were looking for. They find the entrance to another labyrinth. Yuli suggests resting while they can. He says with a sly smile that now they will overcome this labyrinth. His determination scares the girls. One says her legs are already going cold. Another says she is frightened by this side of him. Yuli says that an earthen labyrinth is common in Zvik, and he wants to find out if it is related to the climate. Tia advises being more careful, but Julius replies that he is just used to it, as he was a court magician. He recalls that he was sent hundreds of times to earn money under the guise of training in labyrinths. The turtle with a huge gemstone on its shell attracts the hero's attention, and Julius notices how quickly it reacts. It turns out this is a demolition turtle that explodes when attacked, as described. Julius notices that the turtle begins to glow. He warns everyone that it is self-destructing and will explode in a few seconds. Such an unexpected monster scared the sisters, but Yuli reassures them, saying that it is a very rare species. Julius says that if there were only such monsters here, the labyrinth would not be so complicated, and he is right. He says that there are many traps here. Suddenly, one of the sisters steps on a tile, and a pit opens beneath her. They fall into a trap, into the house of monsters, from which many enemies will now come out. They are surrounded by giant bats, earth hulks, and rat people, and the sisters do not understand why there are so many of them. Sierra tries to attack, but her attacks do not affect the golems. She shouts that the situation needs to be assessed. Kane creates a wall of fire, burns golems, and happily notices how funny it looks when they burn. Mabel screams in horror at the sight of a rat, and Tia wonders why the cat is so afraid of mice. The girl overcame her fear and firmly says that she will do it. Julius says that he is the best adventurer in Shambala, and they will prove it to the end, inspiring everyone to fight. They break through the trap. Julius notices their excellent teamwork and asks if they are getting used to the dungeon. The sisters say in unison that they do not want to get used to this. Yulia smiles and says that he will have to anyway. Tia asks if Mabel is okay, and Mabel replies that everything is fine and that she will return soon. The hero approaches the large doors behind which the boss's room is likely located. Julius says that it is unexpected, and Tia adds that it should be called the labyrinth of the precious turtle. A huge turtle with a giant stone on its shell appears before them, and they cannot believe their eyes. This is a ruin royal turtle, a special species that rarely evolves due to the accumulation of magical ore. Yuli is worried that if it explodes, the labyrinth will collapse, but Tia reassures him and says that no labyrinth has ever been destroyed by an explosion. She says it's better to die under the rubble than to fight, but Julia suggests trying to defeat the turtle. Julia says that it is natural for a man to want to defeat such a monster, and Mabel says that as an adventurer she knows this better. The hero says he can handle her with magic and suggests coming back later. Tia panics and yells at him not to do that. The sisters unanimously say that one must be prepared for anything because unforeseen circumstances may arise. He decides that if the turtle explodes, he will cast a magical shield on it. Julius is rushing forward and shouting that he wants to defeat this turtle too badly. He sees that the turtle begins to glow and understands that it is very dangerous. Tia screams that it is dangerous, but suddenly her legs get stuck. Sierra panics that they will all die. Yulia says that although she is big, they are all the same and she is preparing to use his magic. He creates a huge block of ice and throws it at the turtle, completely freezing it. The hero stands in a safe place, smiles, and says for the turtle to explode. Mabel screams in horror, realizing that the explosion is inevitable. Mabel scolds Julia for not warning them about the explosion. He apologizes, and the sisters do not understand what is happening. One of the sisters says she cannot move her legs. Julius asks Mabel for help because they are closer to the epicenter than he had planned. He offers to feed them a delicious dinner, but Tia yells at him to just help them get out of here. Julius creates a powerful magical barrier to protect everyone from debris. Mabel joyfully exclaims that they are alive. Julius calmly says that he told them they would not die here. In the cave, they find many earthly crystals. Tia asks her sister if she is okay, but she still cannot feel her legs. Julie examines her legs, realizes that it is a poison that petrifies, and cannot believe how it happened. Maybe we will remember that we saw a strange rat. She apologizes because she thinks it is her fault, but Julie reassures her. Tia asks about a fever reducer, but Mabel says she doesn't have any, and the girl says they have an elixir. My sister says she has already tried the elixir, but it seems useless against petrification. Julius is shocked that the elixir does not work. He was so excited by the fight that he did not even notice what happened. Tia, with tears in her eyes, begs Yulia to save her sister, saying that if things continue like this, she will die within a few hours. The injured sister says she is ready, asks Mabel not to give up, but does not want to lose her. Mabel asks how she can help. Julia says there is only one way to take her to the workshop. He says that the medicine for petrification is described in the book, and if he manages to transfer the description, he will be able to prepare it. Tia, with tears in her eyes, agrees and says that she also cannot imagine life without her sister. Yuli promises to save her sister and says that they will meet in their workshop. He tightly hugs Tia and promises not to let her sister die and to take care of her. The girl quietly calls Yuli when he is carrying her on his back. He asks what is happening. Julius asks her not to say too much because it will hurt him very much if she dies. Sierra says he is not surprised by the war over resources, and in response says that where there is wealth, there is war. The girl admits that it is her fault. She looked into his past, but he entered the labyrinth unprepared. She is afraid that if something happens to her, Mabel will hate him, and he says that grief can change anyone. The girl asks him to save her sister. He promises that he will definitely save her, but only together with her and only that way. Yulia is shocked and does not understand how she could know what he is thinking. She replies that she sees in him everything that he was previously called Yuri, and that he was kind. He shouts that this is madness because it is a merging of consciousnesses, and asks if it is legal. Julius panics as memories of her flood his mind. In his memories, the image of a beautiful girl, a true princess of Shambala, emerges. Long ago, the Maharoba dynasty united all the elves in the world. One queen led this dynasty to 1,000 years of peace and tranquility. But according to the legend, this great dynasty was destroyed overnight. Hundreds of years later, she was born, the last of the great ancestors, the millennial Queen Zonakon. The girl smiles and says that her name is Sheila Zona Kanatanis and returns to her parents. She was given the same name as her ancestors, and in childhood her family called her a princess. But her happiness ended. Her father lost the struggle for power, and now she does not know what to do because she is not respected as a queen. One day, when she was 4 years old, her father entered her room while she was looking at the portrait. Her father, with a sad and determined expression on his face, told her to listen very carefully. He said that he and his mother had to leave this place and go very far away. The girl asks where they are going. The father replies that it is a difficult journey, and they cannot take her with them. He says that from now on, Sampala will protect her, and they leave her with the mayor. She asks how long this will last. The parents say they will come for her when they find the missing queen. The mother adds that it may take 5, 10, or even 100 years. The girl runs after them in tears, begging them not to go and to take her with them. But her parents say they are very sorry. Yuli is shocked by this memory. He does not understand how one can forget such an important event. He says that it is a childhood memory because he was abandoned immediately after birth. In his memory, the image of a woman in a hood appears, who leaves him by the shelter door. He looks at the woman and quietly says, "Mom," but she walks away and does not look back. Yulia says that this place even awakens forgotten memories. He turns away and says that he does not want to see this anymore. The girl says that her legs are becoming heavy, and the numbness is spreading quickly. Yuli promises that he will heal her soon. She thanks him, but then loses consciousness, and Julius is in panic, not understanding what is happening. The girl says she knew he would help Shambala, is glad she chose him, and disappears into the portal. She asks him to save Shambala for her sake. He hugs her and she faints in his arms. The heroine confesses that she loves him more than anyone in the world, and he, holding her close, firmly says that he will not let her die.